What's the one thing that blows your mind every time you think about it? How much of our childhood we don't remember, especially the very early years. You don't remember super happy moments. You don't remember super weird moments. You don't remember things you said you needed to remember. You don't remember things you said you would be proud of doing them when you were adult, or just generally be proud of them. But I remember that time I fed a vitamin to a cricket. I hope that cricket grew up to be big and strong. Massive 7-foot-long cricket bursts into home and eats family of 4. Honestly, that's giving me like a Florida man gets eaten by cricket after feeding it vitamins headline. That for any given one of us, there are quite probably hundreds of thousands of people in the world who would find us attractive and fall in love with us, and probably millions who we could be close friends with under the right circumstances. And yet so many of us are so lonely. Jeez, Carol, you hit me right in the emotional nuts. Emotional nuts, I like this person. Let's be friends. He said millions. Get in line. That I have probably driven past a few houses with kidnapped people being trapped inside. Are you the dude that keeps driving past my house? How many chances I must have missed in my life. Edit. So since a lot of you tried to say that I shouldn't be sad about this and live in this time, I just wanted to say thank you. But I didn't want this to be that negative. It's just interesting how different life could have been with a small difference in decisions. But thanks guys. Smiley face. 7th grade. We're allowed to pick our own seats. Pretty blonde girl sits next to me. Do you think I'm pretty? I want to sit here. Yeah. Pretty ugly. Cause I'm a dunce and I was a jerk. She moves seats. Proceeds to never talk to me. Turns out to become one of the major high school popular girls. Yeah, I screwed that one up. Random times while I'm driving, I'll think about the other 30 people around me all going about 70 miles per hour on the highway, staying in the lanes and still being 4-6 feet away from touching other cars. How is it possible we can manually operate machines going at speeds incomprehensible 100 years ago without killing everyone around us? And to do so without directly communicating with the people around us, but rather all following a loosely agreed upon set of road rules and hoping that everyone else does the same. Yeah, mad crazy. I am the main part of my dog's life. You are probably all your dog cares about. That and biscuits. And licking his booty hole. I only did that once, OMG, stop mentioning it. I read a quote once. Something like, your dog is only part of your life, but you are all of theirs. Whenever I think of that I bust out crying. Those little goobers go everywhere with me now. I want them to have the best dog life ever. My dog is like 99% of my life. The size of the galaxy and universe. I can't even begin to comprehend it. It's either finite, or it's infinite. Either way it's mind-boggling. This brings me to a thing that I can't comprehend. If it's finite and expanding, how and where is it expanding? The butterfly effect. About 6 years ago at about 3 AM in a side alley in Auckland, New Zealand, I was mugged for everything I had on me. The police came, took me back to the station and did the whole crime report process. After it was all done, I declined the offer of a ride home, and got my friend to pick me up instead. On the way home, we got a flat tire and had to pull over and knock on someone's door asking for help since we had no tools to change our flat. A woman opened the door, and got her brother to help us out. Talked to her etc and grabbed her number. 6 years later we have a 7-month-old daughter and I couldn't be happier. For a second I thought you were going to say you knocked on a door and the mugger answered it. Copyright that. You got a low-budget indie movie in your hands. That's a fancy name for a porno. I missed the financial aid deadline for my first choice college by a week. Went to my second choice instead. Changed majors twice. Met my future wife. Moved across the country. Sometimes I wonder about the me in an alternate universe that went to that other college. What happened to his life? What happened to my wife in that alternate universe? That everyone has their own life and I'm a side character. As my kids are getting older and more developed as people, it blows my mind to think about how they are the heroes of their own stories and I'm just a supporting character. I can feel my own irrelevancy as I age. Are you the mentor character because by episode 8 you're probably going to die? Why isn't there nothing? Why does anything exist at all? There couldn't be nothing if there wasn't something. I need an adult. There's a fab book called Why Does the World Exist that walks through a bunch of philosophical and cosmological contemplations of this. I loved it. You might too. that I feel like I didn't really know my parents as well as I thought. About 7 years ago they both passed away 2 months apart from cancer. I have no siblings and was left to clean everything up and take care of their estate and belongings. I found some stuff that I knew nothing about. Now granted, they were being the best parents they could be and sheltered me from a lot of stuff. But sometimes I feel like that sheltering was a disservice. It just blows my mind how the persona left behind after death are not quite the ones I remember living. I miss them both dearly. The ocean can be as deep as commercial jet cruising altitudes. Imagining all that water above my head. Shiver me timbers. That gave me anxiety. Thanks. Death. It's just bizarre. The fact that we don't know for sure what happens after our consciousness leaves the body terrifies me. Another thing that blows my mind is that the space is so large that there is a possibility that there is an exact copy of Earth somewhere out there. Quote, I do not fear death. I had been dead for billions and billions of years before I was born, and had not suffered the slightest inconvenience from it. End quote. Mark Twain. That literally every small decision you've made in life, no matter how insignificant it seemed, led you to reading this post, and any difference could have altered your life wildly. Every single time I look up into the night sky I'm breathless. I hope I never lose that feeling. The fact that the stars, planets, celestial bodies we see from Earth could be long gone based on the increasingly large amount of time it takes for light to travel from them to us. The sheer space which constitutes space blows my mind. I read that all the planets easily fit in the space between just the Earth and the Moon. Jupiter is so huge that it counteracts the gravity of the Sun to rearrange the planets themselves, and it is just tiny compared to the space between just the Earth and its moon. I don't even wanna think about the rest of space. There's a lot more ants than humans. A lot more. What do you figure? Like at least 12. IDK man, I killed a few ants as a kid, probably down to 7 now. Every time I think of a brilliant plan to change the world, I realize there are 7 billion consciousnesses on this planet with different ideals and memories and goals and dreams. DJ Khaled is in some bathroom pointing at his belly in the mirror and saying another one, and some Muslim girl is arguing with her dad about wearing hijab when they are alone on the farm doing chores. And some old Japanese man is going to catch his last fish and lay in his bed and die later. It's weird that any of this works at all, at times. Just to add to the insanity of this thought, I'm a 25-year-old guy currently sitting in a TJ Maxx in New England waiting for my girlfriend to finish trying on bathing suits. The girl behind the check-in desk is probably a high schooler on summer break. The guy trying on clothes who just walked out mentioned to his mom something about his grandma liking his recent project. There's a lot of stuff going on. Seems a good place for some Carl Sagan. Look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives, the aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every son and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. Man, these threads are giving me existential crisis. I get stuck on past people a lot, especially the people who we don't have any information about, whether it's because they're from a society where writing didn't exist yet or at all, or they were of too low status to write about, or someone or something just destroyed the records. There were thousands of commoners in ancient times who had friends and hobbies and ideas that we'll never know about. Even their direct descendants don't know their names or anything else about them today. Yes, I've found myself thinking about this as well. Millions of anonymous people, each with their own life experiences, wants and dreams, regrets, etc. If I could truly travel back in time as an observer, I would spend a lot of time examining these people. During the night, your intervertebral discs relax and expand. That is why you are 1% taller in the morning than in the evening. Unfortunately, during the day they compress back down, making you shorter again. To avoid this daily shortening, don't get out of bed. Simply by staying in bed for 20 days, you'll be 20% taller 100 days, 100% taller. Since taller people are more successful, The longer you stay in bed, the more successful you'll be. Thanks for the tip. I'll have to try this out. I've posted this before, but it blows my mind how much collective work is put into every single thing around us. Pick up a book. The author was not the only one responsible for it being in your hand. So was the owner of the publishing company, the factory worker making sure it was printing correctly, and many others. Look at a building. From the mind of the architect that designed it, the contractor in charge of building it, the construction worker who put his sweat and hard work into those walls. An apple you might have for a snack goes through many people, like the farmer, to the distributor, to the grocer that stocked it on the shelf. Pretty much everything around us had so many people working on it, many that you don't even consider. That's pretty amazing to me. My life experiences are really only significant to me. Other people may listen to me share, but at the core, everyone is focused on their own experiences, making you feel so insignificant in the sea of other insignificant people. But at the same time, your perspective is absolutely unique because of it. You're the only one that can tell your story. That doesn't mean your story can't help someone else get through theirs. Your unique perspective, due to your unique experience, may be exactly the help that someone else needs to continue their own. The universe either goes on forever or there is a border to it. Both of those things are difficult to conceptualize. As is with most major beliefs, we either cease to exist at some point, or we live for eternity in an afterlife. Both of those things are hard to imagine. I'm not religious, but I still think the notion of an afterlife is plausible. I imagine it's like waking up after a very long and realistic dream during which you forgot you were dreaming. You blink and suddenly you're an alien, sitting on a couch with your alien friends at a party, holding a bong, and they're asking you what you felt. I'm a nuclear engineer. My daughter's studying astrophysics. When she starts explaining the behavior of planet clusters from formation to decay, I'm amazed at how similar they act to the nuclei of an atom, especially unstable isotopes. Asking, "What's your name?" is essentially asking, "What noise do I make to get your specific attention?" This is the one for me. On my kitchen bench are 2 cylinders of salt and pepper just casually sitting there. What used to be magic is now an afterthought. Wars have been fought and empires have risen and fallen over these 2 miraculous products. And now we're so rich we take them for granted and waste them with reckless abandon. This is stuff that men risked sailing into the great unknown on the off chance that they could find a better way to get it, and make money from it. Isn't that just capitalism at its purest? Roman soldiers were paid in it. My family, friends and I all throw them all over our food to enhance it or to disguise my terrible cooking. The modern economics, logistics and infrastructure involved to enable us to do that. That's just mind-blowing. That it's impossible for me to imagine a new color. That one of my family members could die and someone on the other side of the world would be just a normal day. Not even the other side of the world. My uncle died a few years ago, and on my way over to his house to sit with my aunt and cousins, I saw that 2 doors down they had a bunch of balloons and a "It's a girl" sign in their front yard. Thinking about it now, the people living in the house in between probably had a basically normal day that day. The oldest living person has witnessed the deaths of billions of people. Also, they've seen the global population almost quadruple. 2 billion in 1928 to 7.7 billion 2019. When a pregnant woman swims, they are basically a human submarine. How individual people who are part of a group that does hateful, awful things to others can be so kind and empathic one-on-one. The converse as well. How people who fight for justice for the downtrodden and devote their lives to activism can be horribly toxic people, repeatedly hurting those around them for their own gain. I think it has something to do with the mob itself. How it anonymizes you. I read about a research on this phenomenon. People were more likely to encourage a potential jumper when he was part of a crowd and when it was dark outside. It delinks you from the consequence. That's why social media can really be poopy. The amount of people in the world. There are so many people, all different and unique. There are also people living in completely different situations than you, who go about their day-to-day lives way different. All these people and you'll only really meet a fraction of them. It is crazy. We could be sitting in our air-conditioned comfy rooms reading AskReddit, and sipping on a cold drink. Meanwhile, halfway across the globe someone doesn't even have access to clean water, and probably got the news that their village is sick again. In others, you could be prepping to go to the grocery store for dinner. Meanwhile, somewhere else someone is maneuvering through the rubble trying to get to an aid station. The fact that when we sing, we just hit the notes we're supposed to. It's not like I can look at the frets on a guitar or the keys on a piano to figure it out. My voice just does it. This keeps me up at night. Speak for yourself. The fact you can type any question to your browser, anything at all, and have a very high chance of getting answered in just a couple of minutes. So much information is at your fingertips. There is nothing you can't start learning by yourself whenever you want. And here I'm stiff writing meaningless crap to Reddit sigh. Ellenid 60 years old. What? Lightning is 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. And people get hit by lightning sometimes and some survive. It really freaks me out. Technology in general. How far we've come in relatively such a short amount of time. And how far we'll most likely go within even the rest of my own lifetime. In my 20s. For example, my family immigrated to Canada back in 2001 when international phone calls cost a fortune. So my mom and dad still had to write letters to Kazakhstan to communicate with family members 18 years later, and we can instantly communicate through things like WhatsApp and video chat with people all over the world for free. My father got to be with my grandfather on his deathbed so many times through Skype. Although being all the way in Canada, I can see what my cousins are up to all the time because of Instagram stories. I actually found a long lost cousin through Russian social media, and so much more. I don't think people realize too often just how lucky we are to have these little phones and technologies at our use. 247. How little we think of others when we're living our own lives. Sometimes I just daydream. I'm sitting here having a coffee, but thousands of miles away someone's detailing their car. Someone else is about to get fired. Someone's getting boned. Someone else is unknowingly in the process of changing the world. Just boggles me sometimes to know that there's literally so much happening around the world in any given moment, but we just carry on living like the rest of the world doesn't exist. That for millennia humans were confined to the ground, and in less than 100 years we went from learning to fly to walking on the moon. And how insane that must sound to someone who lived 1000 years ago. Even after I die, the human race will continue to make amazing achievements. That one day this human being, me, would leave this world. They'll put me in a box and burn me until there's nothing but ashes. Everything I've known, everything I've seen, everything that goes on in my head, will be gone and never come back. And now I'm freaking out. Ha 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 ho he he he. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like it and subscribe. Or don't, I'm not your boss.